Hey everybody, welcome back. My name is John. This is my channel, The Origin Factory. It is Monday, June 10th, 2024. Hope you all had a great weekend. Hope you had a chance to get out and do a little RCing. We were out crawling this weekend with Vanqiush Optic H10 again to do a little more review on it. And that's why we're here today, to do a little follow-up on it. Before I get to all of that, a little channel business. First of all, thank you to everyone who's subscribed so far. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. That's what helps us the most right now and helps our channel. And if you are subscribed, if you could still help by commenting, liking, and sharing, all that little stuff helps us. I mean, like I said, we're a brand new channel. So all that little stuff helps a new channel out. And it's been growing great, and I really appreciate all your effort. Thank you. So now on to Optic H10. If you watched our previous video, we had a problem with blowing a diff unit on it and taking out the center gears. So after doing the upgrades and replacing them, I wanted to get out and have some more drive time with it so I could get more of a proper review for it. So my buddy Mike come and picked me up, and it was a beautiful day on Sunday. It was sunny, 70 degrees Fahrenheit, nice breeze, just beautiful spring day. Well, and if you don't remember all the mods we did to the Optic, I'll do a little quick review on that. We took Vanquish Tank 2.2s and put them on there, along with Proline high racks and G8 compound with 2-stage foams. We also added the stainless steel wheel weights that kind of look like brake rotors, those ones, and to the front only. We put SLW 600 hubs. Did a Hobbywing Pro SE 2300 kV. Reese 500 raw servo, pricey custom crawler shocks, and it looks like I saw Steve from Pricey Custom Crawlers do a post on Sunday about, it sounds like he's finally got a recipe for the shocks for the Optic and the way he wants to, or best sets them up. So if you want to contact him about that to get your own for your Optic, contact, I think the only way you can reach him is through Facebook, so you have to find his Facebook page, which is Pricey's Custom Crawlers, and he's a great guy. So our initial outing, like I said, resulted in blowing up the diff gear and so forth. And so we wanted to get a bunch of seat time in it today and see what it was like to drive it. We do a standard loop at the park. It's a state park. It's rock. If you watch some of my other driving videos, all my driving videos are filmed at the same location if you want a better feel for the terrain and everything, all the stuff we're going up against. So when I'm driving the Optic, in the back of my head, I'm always comparing it to my other rigs that I drive a lot, which would be my Vanquish. It's a VS410 based chassis truck. It's got an Origin, it's got a Pro body where, Origin half cab, whatever you want to call it. But it's a VS410 chassis. It's kind of a combo of a Pro and an Origin. It still has an axial, has a 3-gear transmission in it, but it has plastic axles. All of these rigs of mine have plastic axles because we're on some pretty sharp rock, and I noticed the plastic just does better. The aluminum kind of digs in and acts as a brake, whereas the plastic axles kind of glide over it a little better, if that's the best way to describe it. And the other rig I drive out here a lot is the VRD. I've been driving the VRD a lot, since I got it, because I get a little bit of a giggle factor, because after driving the VS410, base rig for so long, and also driving a Phoenix, the VRD just does so much. And so this winter I drove it all winter, which we're in snow country, so we don't always have that option. But this year we had very little snowfall and very mild temperatures, so we were able to drive all winter for once, which we typically don't get to do that. Usually if we're driving the winter, it's some place that has an indoor course, which we have since lost, and so we don't really have an indoor course locally anymore, unfortunately. But anyways, so I'm constantly, so when I'm driving this in the back of my head, I'm thinking about where Optic compares to like the VS410 and the VRD. And taking it out there this weekend, I noticed that the longer wheelbase on the Optic is a little bit, the belly hangs kind of low, just like a VS410. It's definitely not like the VRD, for example. And so that was why we put 2.2s on it anyways, was to try and get it up a little higher to make up for that low belly. And it was, what else would help with it would be the high clearance links that people are doing now. And I think Steve is at Pricey Custom Crawlers. I think, he mentioned also he's doing links for it too, the high clearance links. I definitely note that today or on Sunday, it would definitely improve it a little bit. It would help out. I also know it's a little bit harder to steer from the longer wheelbase. Not much, but, so the dig unit might help just to get the steer a little sharper. One thing else I noticed is it would be nice to put the overdrive in it, like through the gear ratios. I don't know if I'd put a VFD twin in there. I think I'd rather do it like the VRD and do it through the gear ratios between the front and the rear. I've gotten really used to driving the VRD that way, so I like that extra overdrive in the front and the way it pulls. And I think that would help the optic, at least to accommodate my driving style now. But yeah, so the approach angle too, you get with a buggy type vehicle, you don't have front bumpers. So, your approach angle is so much better than, like, say, with the VS410. So that's really nice. It's nice being able to go up against a vertical surface with your front wheels and then just start going up. Like it was with a bumper vehicle with a full body, you can't go straight into anything. You have to, hit it like a 45-degree angle and get one of your front tires to start crawling up, lifting the vehicle up, and then you can kind of steer into it, that driving style. So yeah, so it's nice with the optic to not have to do that. That's what's really great about buggies. So your approach angles are a lot better. And so yeah, the VRD, of course, has similar approach angles as a buggy because it doesn't have the full wide front end like a full body truck. So that's where the VRD and the optic have an advantage over the VS410 style rigs for sure. Yeah, and the VS410s, I don't run my VS410s as wide as I do the optic. The optic, I got 600 SLWs on there, and the VS410, I'm running like 375s or 450 hubs. So it's definitely tippier. The center of gravity between the two, I think the optic's probably got a little bit lower center of gravity. I always felt like the VS410s feel kind of tall just because of how tippy they are when you're side hilling. So, and that might be just also a result of running it narrower, which would obviously cause it to tip on its side easier. But like I said, the VRD definitely outshines it, in performance. But of course it's a comp rig. It's not, it's not in the same, it's not an apples to apples comparison. Actually, none of them are an apples to apples because you're talking full body versus buggy versus comp rig. With that in mind, if somebody were to say to me, which Vanquish should I buy? And it's, it was strictly performance oriented, which would perform the best, I would steer them towards VRD. And VRD has been bulletproof for me too. I think I've lost one portal gear and I've run dozens of packs through it. And it just, like I said, I still get a giggle factor from it because I've been driving my VS410 based one. And then also, my other VS410 based one which was a Phoenix. And, they feel tall compared to the VRD, as far as the way they tip and their high center of gravity. So when I first got the VRD, it's like, man, this thing just does stuff I didn't know he could do because I never had a comp rig before. And then with the overdrive and that kind of stuff, it's really set up well. Needs minimal adjustments, minimal modifications to it for it to work, properly. And so, either version, the stance is similarly set up. There's a few difference, the stance is the ready to run version of the VRD. So it's a little bit different. But a lot of it's the same. So yeah, but if you're looking for a buggy style, they all got their pluses and minuses between the three of them, meaning, VS410, which would be Fordyce and Phoenix and any other thing with that VS410 base chassis. And the VRD is, a comp with an angled, skid and high clearance links and all that stuff. They all have their advantages and disadvantages, and they could all be, they can all almost be compensated with some of those advantages that they each have and be added as a modification to the other. The Optic and the VS410 are, you'd be hard pressed to ever get them to compete like the VRD without changing the chassis. So there's a lot of it in the design of the VRD that just gives it a huge benefit that you're never going to see with the VS410 and the Optic. But they weren't meant to be that compete directly either. So, if you wanted a buggy, definitely, get the Optic. If you want a full-bodied rig, get the VS410. If you want something that just does all sorts of amazing stuff that you didn't think you could do with a crawler after driving full-bodied rigs, definitely go with the VRD. So, yeah, with that in mind, it's not highly excited with Optic. It's growing on me. The other big plus is not having a polycarbonate body, which has been huge for me because I usually put time into my bodies and paint them and all that stuff. And the environment I drive them in, they're always taking a tumble or they're always dragging on the rocks. And, polycarbonate bodies, they just take abuse and they start to look ugly the more you drive them. And so what I like about the Optic in that regard is it's a much more bulletproof exterior, meaning that it's still going to take damage in aesthetics and and how nice it looks, but my way of looking at it is I don't mind replacing the panels as much because that is not that much. That doesn't create more labor for me like it does when you have to replace a polycarbonate body and you got to paint it and put a bunch of energy into it and then start scratching it up the more you drive it, and that always sours me a little bit. And it's like, I put all that time in that body and now I got to drive it. And now it's starting to look like crap every time I use it. So Optic took a few hits from elevations. We're driving on high ground and, it took probably half a dozen dives at least over 2 feet, and the integrity, awesome. The structure is no damage to the cage or the panels, and it's handling a lot of abuse as far as that regard. It's like crashing and rolling and all that kind of stuff, and that reason alone is probably why I will start to drive it more for like an everyday type vehicle, because it handles that abuse in that way. So, and it's not, and the cage is very resilient. I haven't seen any fatigue or any impacts that are going to cause damage to it in the long run. So it's resilient, unlike a polycarbonate body, which will just start to take more and more hits until you get fractures and, cracks and start splitting apart. And then you refresh it with a new body and it looks new, and then it starts to go downhill again. So for that part of it, I like the Optic. But yeah, if you're the person that's going to buy every Vanquish product anyways, then I guess it's just more about what mods you want to do to make it more capable. The Optic, I guess the biggest thing is upgrade those diff gears, and then maybe the shocks and maybe the high clearance links be the route to go. Tires and wheels, that's more of a personal thing based on where you're driving. We definitely have tire combinations that work here better, and that's why I changed them right away. The tires that are on there, the Geolanders, they don't have very big lugs, and we need lugs here to grab the edges of the surfaces to help pull the truck up, to like do up and overs, when we're doing climbs on vertical surfaces, and we need that grip. We need the lugs to grab the edges of the rock. We don't have, because our rock is kind of polished, so we're not getting our traction so much from the flat surface. We are to some degree, but we're also catching on edges that are giving us to pull the truck up. So the Geolanders that came out a little too smooth. They are nice and grippy and soft, but here they don't. That style of tire doesn't do as well. So for us, it was necessary to upgrade the tires right away. But yeah, that's kind of the overall gist of it. The battery changing is very easy. That battery location on this is just wonderful. It just makes it so much easier. It's so nice to have a battery access like the way it is on the Optic. Obviously you can't do that with a polycarbonate body, but so yeah, they did a good job with that. That's really cool to have that so easy to change. That's the biggest gist of it, and also the weight of these. Coincidentally, all three of these weigh the same. I mean, call bullshit if you want, but they're all about 6 pounds, 13 ounces after their modifications, which I didn't know that until today. I hadn't weighed any of the other of my rigs because it didn't matter to me. So I just wanted to weigh them today to see the comparison. Everything tipped the scales at about 6 pounds, 13 ounces, give or take a little bit. So they're all very comparable in that regard. So when I'm comparing these, I mean, they're all running the Fusion Pro 2300. So I mean, it's as direct of a comparison I can do without making all the, not having so many variables between them that could impact the way they drive. So they're all running the same running gear basically. But yeah, it's, I'm not a ready run guy, and that's the only thing that's kind of the sticker with me. That's the biggest sticker with me. I mean, that's what I like about the VRD was I got to build it exactly the way I want it. And to me, that puts the VRD ahead of the Optic for that regard, because I don't like the throwing away the RTR stuff or trying to find somebody who wants it or whatever. And I understand that Vanquish, and they've made the statement a couple times that it's not necessarily in their plan, because kits they don't sell as many kits, and there's less people that are building kits. So are they going to do a kit of Optic? I don't know. As of right now, it doesn't sound like it. Anyway, so that's our experience with Optic H10. Those of you who have it already or have been driving it and have some seat time with it, put in the comments section what's been your experience so far. Anything that's worked better, anything that's improved it, any problems you've had, I'm curious. So definitely jump in on the comments and tell me your experience so far with your Optic. But yeah, so we got a video coming up midweek. I'm going to try to set up a regular routine of a Monday and a Wednesday video drop. That's my goal. I'm going to see how well I can stick to it. The midweek videos get a little tough sometimes depending on how the week's going, but we're going to try to shoot for Mondays and Wednesdays. This Wednesday, we got a surprise unboxing video of a Vanquiush product from the past. So also stick in the comments what you think it might be. It's a Vanquiush that is no longer in production and has been labeled as discontinued on their website. So that gives you about 4 or 5 options or something like that. But anyways, like I said, if you can like, comment, subscribe, all that happy fun stuff. Subscribers help us the most right now. So yeah, have a great week, everybody. We'll talk to you soon. God bless.